All right, Bears fans. After a gut-wrenching loss to the Minnesota Vikings, a game that started with hope and ended in frustration, Week 1 is in the books, and if you're still trying to wrap your head around what just happened, trust me, you're not alone. The Bears dropped a tough one, 27-24, and while it's only one game, the emotions are running high, the hot takes are flying, and the questions are already piling up. Let's unpack this mess together. The first thing everyone's talking about, and rightly so, is Caleb Williams. The rookie had flashes, sure, but there were also some troubling signs that brought back memories of last season's struggles. Early on, it looked promising. He seemed composed, made a few good throws, and gave fans a glimpse of the potential that had people so excited when the Bears brought in Ben Johnson to develop him. But as the game wore on, the cracks started to show. The second half was brutal. He held onto the ball too long, hesitated in key moments, and the decision-making wasn't where it needs to be. One of the worst moments came late in the game. On a 4th and 3, Caleb just rifled the ball straight into the turf in front of DJ Moore. You could see the adrenaline, the nerves, whatever it was, but that's a throw you absolutely have to make. And then, on what could have been a game-changing drive, he airmailed DJ again. If he hits that throw in stride, the Bears are looking a legit shot to tie or even win the game. That's the difference between being in the conversation and actually making a statement. Now, let's be real. No one expected Caleb to be perfect right out of the gate. It's a new system. It's his first real NFL action. And yes, they're going to be growing pains. But what's frustrating is that some of the issues we saw last year, the hesitation, the late reads, the missed throws, are still showing up. That's where it gets concerning. And while I'm not saying we hit the panic button after 1 week, I understand why some fans are already floating wild ideas, like starting Tyson Bagent. Look, that's not happening, nor should it. This is the Caleb Williams era. The Bears brought in Ben Johnson to mold him, not to yank him after one game. But let's be honest, if the struggles continue, this storyline won't go away anytime soon. Still, it wasn't all bad from Caleb. There were some nice throws, that play-action strike to DJ Moore, the off-schedule rocket to Rome Odunze on the opening drive, and the late touchdown pass on a hard play-action call. Those were real NFL throws. He also used his legs to escape pressure, picked up key yardage, and showed the kind of athleticism that give you hope. But it's the inconsistency that's holding him back. You just can't leave that many plays on the field. Now let's talk about the run game, or lack thereof. The Bears couldn't establish anything consistent on the ground, and it showed. Caleb's scrambles padded the stats a bit, but as far as designed runs, it was rough. DeAndre Swift had a few moments, especially late in the third quarter when it looked like he might be heating up, but even then, you could see missed opportunities. There was one play early on where he cut left and picked up a few yards, not terrible, but if he had cut right, there was a lane that could have gone for 10 or more. He did show good vision on a cutback later that picked up 13, so it's not all on him, but like Caleb, the performance was uneven. Ben Johnson even admitted after the game that he never found a rhythm calling the run game. That's not something you want to hear from your offensive play caller after week 1. And what's even more frustrating, the personnel decisions. Roscoe Johnson was inactive, and while DJ Moore got a few carries, the Bears gave 0 carries to Kyle Manengai. He was active, suited up, but wasn't used as a runner at all. Only got 1 target and some pass protection reps. If you're going to challenge a tough interior defensive line like Minnesota's, you need to do it with more than one back. Swift got most of the work, and while he's explosive, he's not a between-the-tackles grinder. That's where Kyle could have made an impact. Hopefully next week, we see him get more involved, especially with Detroit's physical front coming up. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the officiating, and listen, some of it is warranted. That phantom holding call on Darnell, right? Brutal. It completely derailed a promising drive. Bears were at the 12-yard line, and just like that, it's 2nd and 20 from the 34. But here's the problem. You have to respond better. What followed was an intentional grounding from Caleb, then a 3rd and 30, and then Cairo Santos missed a 50-yard field goal. That sequence alone was the turning point of the game. The call was bad. No one is arguing that. But you can't let it spiral like that. And that's really the theme here. Good teams overcome bad calls. They don't let one mistake turn into 5. The Bears still had a double-digit lead after that mess. They were up 17-6, and then they just folded. It's the same issue we saw last year. One thing goes wrong, and everything unravels. That's not just a coaching issue, that's a mentality problem. The defense, which had been solid for most of the game, suddenly gave up chunk plays. The offense went flat. Special teams missed a huge kick. All three phases let go of the rope. Now, to be fair, the defense was not the biggest problem. In fact, there were stretches where they looked fast, disciplined, and aggressive. But when momentum flipped, they couldn't get a stop when it mattered. It's not fair to put the whole game on them, but it's another example of this team not being able to play 4 quarters of tough, focused football. That's got to change. And look, the refs weren't done there. The pass interference call on Tariq Stevenson? Soft. It turned what should have been a 4th and 1 into a fresh set of downs. But again, it's part of the game. Calls go both ways. The Darnell Wright call was worse, no doubt, but you can't let those things be the excuse for blowing a lead like that. The Bears had every opportunity to win that game. They just didn't finish. On the bright side, one guy who did show up was Dayo Odeyingbo. For Jay Cutler's lid on this one. He was bringing heat all night. Went up against a backup left tackle and did exactly what you want to see from a big money edge rusher. He was collapsing the pocket, had a sack, a tackle for loss, a couple of hits, and nearly got home on a strip sack. The refs hit him with a questionable hands to the face and a borderline roughing call, both of which felt weak, but overall, he looked like a legit problem on that defensive front. Bigger challenge coming next week with Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell on deck, but it's a good sign. So here we are, week 1 in the rearview. No wins, no moral victories, just a whole lot of what if. It's frustrating because you can see the talent, the flashes, the potential. But this team still finds ways to beat itself. Penalties, missed throws, poor execution in key moments. That's how you lose games you should win. It's not just about talent. It's about discipline, consistency, and knowing how to close. And while it's way too early to make sweeping declarations, these are the kinds of losses that leave a mark. Not because they're catastrophic, but because they feel all too familiar. The Bears have to change that narrative, and fast. What we saw in that 4th quarter was a team that flinched. When momentum swung, instead of locking in, they unraveled. That's something that coaching has to fix, but it also falls on the leaders in the locker room. You can't teach heart, but you can demand accountability. And right now, the Bears look like a team searching for both. Let's go back to Caleb for a moment, because he's the centerpiece of all this. Every conversation about this team's future starts with him. And while nobody expected perfection out of the gate, what he needs to show now is growth. That's what this next stretch of games is really about. Not just whether he can hit the occasional highlight throw or escape pressure with his legs, but whether he can stack good decisions, string together efficient drives, and finish games. Can he show that he's learning from mistakes, adapting to speed, and becoming more decisive with the football? That's what separates a talented rookie from a true franchise quarterback. There were moments in that game where you could feel the tension in his play. Not just the missed throws, but the hesitation. On multiple occasions, he had checkdowns available and instead held the ball, trying to make a play downfield. That's understandable. You want to make the big plays, especially in your debut. But there's a time and place for aggression, and sometimes the right decision is the boring one. A 4-yard dump off to the running back might not make the highlight reel, but it keeps the offense ahead of the chains, and that matters. Those are the habits that make a quarterback efficient. He'll learn, or at least he needs to. One guy who might be able to help him settle in is DJ Moore. He didn't have a monster stat line in this one, but when Caleb found him, good things happened. That chemistry needs to develop fast, because DJ Moore is the kind of receiver who can make life easier on a young quarterback. But that means targeting him consistently and accurately. He can't be overthrown on big 3rd downs. He can't be missed in key moments. And it wasn't just Moore. There were a few targets to Rome Oduns and Cole Kmet that were either late or off target. The timing isn't there yet, but that's what these early games are for. Unfortunately, the league doesn't wait. Every game counts. Another aspect that can't be ignored is how predictable the offense became in the second half. The play calling lost its rhythm. The run-pass balance tilted, and the unit started looking reactive instead of proactive. That's where Ben Johnson has to be better. He's one of the brightest defensive minds in the league. That's why the Bears hired him. But part of that job is knowing how to adjust mid-game. When the defense starts sitting on your tendencies, you have to be able to pivot. The Bears didn't do that. They got stuck, and it cost them. On defense, while the collapse was disappointing, there are building blocks to work with. The front four had some good moments, especially Deo, as we mentioned. The linebackers flowed well to the ball early, and the secondary held up for most of the night until the dam broke late. But the problem is mental. This defense can't just be good for 3 quarters. In the NFL, you need to play 60 minutes. And the inability to respond after one bad break, whether it's a call or a missed opportunity, is a red flag. That's where guys like Tremaine Edmonds and Jalen Johnson have to step up as tone setters. When things get chaotic, you need voices that calm the storm. Special teams, too, had their moment to change the game and missed it. Cairo Santos is usually reliable, but that 50-yard miss stung. You can say it wasn't all on him, and that's fair, but kickers are paid to hit those, especially in a tight game, on the road, against a division opponent. Those are the kicks that define careers. Those are the moments that swing seasons. And while you don't want to pile on after one miss in a game this close, every mistake gets magnified. This all brings us to a broader point. How many times do the Bears have to learn the same lesson before something changes? How many games will they let slip through their fingers before they figure out how to close? This was a winnable game. That's what stings. It wasn't about talent. It wasn't about facing a juggernaut. It was about execution, focus, and mental toughness. And those are things within your control. The challenge now is whether this team can respond. Week 2 is coming fast. Detroit is no joke. That front 7 is going to test the offensive line, which had its struggles in pass protection. The secondary is aggressive. The Lions play fast and physical, and if the Bears aren't ready, it could get ugly. But at the same time, this is an opportunity. This is a chance to show that last week was a fluke, that they can handle adversity, clean up the mistakes, and play smart, disciplined football. What we need to see is urgency. Not panic, not desperation, just urgency. The kind of attention to detail that championship-caliber teams bring every week. That means fewer penalties. That means hitting the open man. That means trusting the system and executing the fundamentals. And most importantly, that means showing some fight when things go sideways. Because they will. That's the nature of this league. It's not about whether the Bears can be perfect. It's about whether they can be resilient, whether they can respond to mistakes, learn from failure, and grow as a unit. That's how you build something sustainable. And that's what this season has to be about. Development, progress, accountability. Right now, it feels like the Bears are stuck between who they were and who they're trying to become. There's potential, yes, but potential doesn't win games. Execution does. And until this team starts finishing games the way they start them, all the talent in the world won't matter. So as we head into week 2, all eyes will be on how they respond. Will Caleb tighten up the fundamentals and make the routine plays consistently? Will Ben Johnson adjust and find a rhythm with this offense? Will the defense put together a complete game? These are the questions that matter now. Because if this team wants to be taken seriously, they have to stop beating themselves. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Whispers are turning into roars in Chicago as the Bears reportedly inked a deal with none other than Aaron Donald, the defensive titan who has terrorized quarterbacks across the league for nearly a decade. Sources close to the team suggest that the signing is more than just a marquee move. It's a declaration of intent. "I'm here to hunt QBs," Donald allegedly told insiders, a statement that has sent waves of excitement and anxiety through the NFC North. Donald's arrival in Chicago could mark a seismic shift for a franchise that has struggled to find consistency on defense. The Bears, long criticized for a porous line, now boast one of the most formidable defensive fronts imaginable. Fans and pundits alike are buzzing over the possibilities. Relentless pressure, forced turnovers, and the kind of game-changing plays that can turn a losing season into a playoff contender. Analysts are already speculating how head coach strategies might evolve with Donald commanding the trenches. But as with any high-profile acquisition, questions abound. How will Donald's presence affect the locker room dynamic? Can the team build around him to maximize his unparalleled talent? And perhaps most importantly, which quarterbacks will feel the brunt of his wrath first? Rumors suggest that top-tier QBs in the division are already strategizing ways to evade what could be a nightmare scenario, facing Aaron Donald at full strength week after week. The timing of the deal also raises eyebrows. Chicago is clearly signaling that it wants to compete now, not later. For Bears fans, long accustomed to roller coaster seasons, this could be the start of a new era, one where the defense becomes the identity, where opposing offenses think twice before stepping into Soldier Field. Social media is aflame with speculation, memes, and bold predictions as the city braces for what many are already calling the Donald era. While the league has yet to see Donald in a Bears jersey in a real game, the mere prospect is enough to send a ripple through the NFL. Rumors are the lifeblood of the sport, and this one, if true, could redefine expectations not just for the Bears, but for the entire NFC. One thing is certain, when Aaron Donald steps onto the field, quarterbacks everywhere are going to be sweating. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.